Okay, so welcome everyone who has joined us so far by either Zoom or phone or some folks at the Little Lake Grange. I'm Madge Strong, and I'm chair of WELL, which is Willits Economic Localization, which is hosting this meeting thanks to a grant from the Community Foundation for our Zoom account. The town hall is also co-sponsored by the Willits Chamber of Commerce, the Willits Environmental Center, the Willits branch of AAUW, which is the American Association of University Women, Friends of Long Valley Library, Round Valley Community Radio, Nuestra Alianza de Willits, Mendocino County Observer, and the Willits Senior Center. And also thanks to the Little Lake Grange for arranging an audiovisual there. So if anybody really couldn't access it through other tech portals, so you could go in person. Before we actually start the program and people can be joining us while I'm letting you know what the plan is for the evening. First, we're going to hear from John Haschak for about 10 minutes, kind of outlining what the issues are facing the county. And then we'll open it up for a stack of those who would like to comment or ask questions of John. Each person will have a maximum of 2 minutes, and John will have 2 minutes to respond to their comment or question. And then if needed, they can take 1 more minute for follow-up if they didn't feel like they got the answer they wanted. And John has another 1 minute to respond to that. And I want to thank Sherry Ebyam, who is with the AAUW, for being our timekeeper. I am going to try to keep the stack of who wants to speak and to call on people if I have a name with that they've indicated they want to talk. I will let them know in advance who is going to be speaking. You can let us know that you want to speak by either using the chat down at the bottom of your screen in the center there. You can write into the chat your name and you want to speak. Make sure you enter so it goes on there. Or down at the bottom, there's also reactions, and I will see that on your screen. When it is your turn, when you're called on, remember to unmute yourself because otherwise I can't hear you. And then at the end, mute yourself again because any kind of background noise or 2 people trying to speak just creates chaos and nobody can hear anything. After the forum and the comments and question period, we're going to allow about 10 minutes for any community announcements, and that will be a 1 minute limit. Or you can put something in the chat if you have an event you want to let us know about. I wanted to mention that because we are recording this and we'll be sending that to channel 3, if you don't want your picture to show up on the screen at all, then take your camera off. If you really don't want your comment or question to be recorded, you will let us know that and we'll see if we can edit those out. But I'm hoping that anyone who wants to ask questions would be willing to have them on the channel 3. I think that gave people time to get here, and maybe people will keep arriving late. But I think it's time now to give John Haschak, our special forum guest, a chance to talk to us about what's going on at the county. So John, take it away.
All right, well, thanks, Madge. Great to see everyone. So it's a weird world that we're living in, that we have to do these virtual Zooms and we can't, get together, but that's the world we're living in. And I really want to appreciate everyone who's helped to put this together and all the sponsors from all around the 3rd District. It's great to have that kind of cooperation and community involvement, even in these times. So thank you, everyone. And Madge read off the list of all the sponsors, and certainly Madge and Sherry Ebyam and Ellen Drell have certainly done a lot to put it all together too. So thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say I'm just really grateful that we have rain finally. And it was a just an awful year with the biggest fire in the history of California, consuming part of our county and a lot of the northeast part of the 3rd district. And then we had the Oak Fire too. And so just this rain is a real blessing. And we just need more and more. Right? Let's get rid of this drought too. Let's see. So, we just survived the fires, and that I've been in contact with FEMA, and FEMA, this woman from Washington, D.C. wants to put together a community forum where people who are applying for individual assistance can call in and get all the information they need. The county and FEMA put together a couple fairs. One was down at the library parking lot in Willits, and then there's one up in Cobolo. And we want to do a virtual meeting next week, and so we'll have a press release about that, so people can get the information they need if they're looking for that independent assistance or individual assistance. And I guess there's like 64, 68 people in our area that already applied, and there could be more. One of the things about the Oak Fire that happened, just north of Willits, was that the work that we had done before with the Sherwood Firewise Council and the cooperation of Rich Padula, Mendocino Redwood Company, and Clay Romero, who are the private property owners along that Burco Road, they signed MOUs with Brook Trails that we got that collaboration so that we could do that work. And CAL FIRE did a lot of the work doing a shaded fuel break along that road. And when the Oak Fire broke out, then that's what the fire trucks and all CAL FIRE was able to use that road and have that as one of the backup lines. And so it was really critical. So all the traffic could go out Sherwood Road. And they say that it was one of the smoothest evacuations seen by people who've been working for 30, like the Sheriff Kendall, who's been working for 30 years in the Sheriff's Department. He said it was the best they've ever had. So I think that was really helpful, and it's great that people are participating in these Firewise councils. We have Firewise councils all around the county. We're certainly, the county's putting money into the Mendocino County Firewise Council to help coordinate the smaller groups. And we have people like Mike Carter who are leading the CERT training. So the more we can get people knowledgeable about what to do in these kind of situations, the better off we are. Let's see, and also there's a CAL FIRE presentation this Tuesday at 10 o'clock for the Board of Supervisors. I sponsored the item to get CAL FIRE to present what their plan is for vegetation management, fuel reduction for this upcoming season. So as we go into the rainy season, what are their plans? Because we want to know what they're thinking about so we can work together with them, with all the Firewise councils, and that will make it for safer, hopefully safer communities for the next fire season. See, with COVID, I just got a text message from our CEO who says she has a phone conference with Dr. Galley, who's the head of public health for the state, and the phone call's at 5:30 this evening, and the talk is that Governor Newsom is thinking about closing down the state again because the numbers aren't looking good. In Mendocino County, we went from the purple, which is the worst level, to red. And so that means that the schools can open up again. And so we have that dilemma of where are we headed, and do we open up the schools, and if we have to shut them back down immediately, that presents kind of havoc for everyone. But right now we're in the red zone, and our numbers aren't looking that good. So we want to keep in the red zone or move into the orange. But we'll see what happens at the statewide level too. And one of the things we're doing with that is with on the agenda for this board meeting Tuesday is a contract with Nuestra Alianza from Willits, and some of the main people in Nuestra Alianza were former students of mine, so I'm very proud of the work they're doing. But it's to create a Promotores de Salud program for the Willits and Ukiah area, where people from the Hispanic community get trained on how to talk to people, how to reach out to give them the health message that we need, because like 65% or so of the people in Mendocino County who have COVID are in the Latinx community. So we're trying to really be proactive on that at this point in getting people trained, people who are respected and trusted in the community, and to really get the message out and see what kind of the issues are and where we can help, because that we don't want that to grow any more than it has. Okay, so we're in the red tier. We have over 1,200 cases so far in our county, and with cannabis, let's see, Supervisor Williams and I have a meeting on Thursday with CDFA, Richard Parrott, the head guy, and Cal Cannabis, and then we're hoping to get some new options for the CEQA problem that we have between our ministerial approach ordinance and what the state is really wanting is a discretionary approach. And so it's kind of this loggerheads at this point. They're going to bring in someone from the Office of Research and Planning to kind of have a new set of eyes on the situation to see what we can do to try to figure out how to make it work. Because right now it's not really working. There's too much of a burden on the county, and the state doesn't want to take it over either because they don't have the staff to do it. So, and let's see, Supervisor Williams and I met with Senator McGuire on Thursday. We met with Assemblymember Wood last week, and so they're aware of the situation. We were making progress with the Fish and Wildlife, and we're bringing on a biologist to help streamline the process of these sensitive species reviews. We had the issue of hemp, and Supervisor Williams and I both voted no on the hemp because it's a danger. We felt like even bringing in this pilot program, it was a risk to the cannabis industry, which is much more, it has a history in our county, and it's lucrative. It's bringing in the tax money, and we can't risk ruining that business for this hemp, which there's too many unknowns about it. And with the expansion, I voted no, and the supervisors sent off to the planning commissions this expansion where you could go grow up to 10% of your land in rangeland, ag land, or upland residential. For me, that was just wildly, it's way too much, and we don't have the water for it. I was supported on that with the environmental groups. Most of the cannabis groups didn't want it. The sheriff didn't want it. The Farm Bureau didn't want it. The ranchers didn't want it. And so who really wanted it? 4 supervisors voted for it. So we'll see how it ends up. With Measure B, we're looking for a financial plan. And we've had a real difficult problem. We've had 3 years of Measure B money coming in. We have $18 million in the bank, and yet we still haven't been able to get a financial plan that we can rely on the numbers. And so it's hard to go forth and say we're going to spend $12 or $20 million on a tough unit when we don't really know if the numbers are there, and what the ongoing costs are going to be, and lots of those kind of variables. So we're waiting, and I've gotten help from Sherry Ebyam, who is a accounting person. She ran a school district's budget for many years, and so she's helped with looking at some of these numbers, and we are going to hopefully look at some of the programs that a PUF needs, even if we don't build the PUF, that these programs need to exist. And if we do build the PUF, these programs need to exist, because the PUF can't just exist on its own. It needs these corollary complementary services. And so we're looking at proposing those in the next couple of weeks,
So
even
John,
though the finances are still kind of shaky.
I just wanted to let you know that's been about 10 minutes, so
Oh.
a couple more minutes.
Okay, and I'll just speed it up then. We're looking at the homeless issues, and the county got about $9 million from the state for Project Home Key to buy the Best Western in Ukiah. There's a town hall tomorrow evening with Senator McGuire, and I'm going to be representing the Board of Supervisors. That's at 6 o'clock or 6:30, I think. And then there's support for the sheriff. We're gathering data, and the sheriff is gathering the data right now so that we can write a letter to the state requesting extra help in enforcing the cannabis laws, because in some parts of our county it's just out of control. And so that's what the sheriff's requested. I want to congratulate the city of Willits on passing Measure K and Measure I for the schools, which is a facilities bond. Measure K was important so that the city doesn't have to rely on the county sheriff for law enforcement and other essential duties. And then the Long Valley Library, we're working on opening that. And I was up in Covelo last week with the sheriff, giving a check to KBYU and the Lions Club for their work involving information to the community and providing, the Lions Club provided shelter for the animals for the August fire disaster up there. So with that, I'll just leave it.
There was a question to explain what a PUF unit is.
Well, the PUF is a psychiatric hospital facility. And so if a person is really out there a danger to him or herself or the community, then they can be put into this psychiatric hospital facility, which is commonly called the PUF.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to look at my big screen now and see if anybody has indicated that they want to ask a question or make a comment. And at the moment, I don't, oh yes, there's Paul Hansberry and Sophie. Go ahead, unmute yourself. And you have 2 minutes.
There you go. That's Susan Tibbin.
Susan.
Hi, everybody. And John, thank you for that overview. I'm Susan Tibbin. And John, we have some concerns with the outsourcing that's being done by the board. So, we're looking at $200,000 coming from the equity program, hiring a Canadian firm to administer that. I'm sure they're very familiar with our demographics. We're looking at Forefront and Ventures Consulting, over $300,000 to do code enforcement and fire recovery. The concern being that there's going to be an awful lot of people in our county who have a long history with cannabis. And I'm just wondering why we're not looking internally at hiring instead of spending these huge amounts for consulting firms. And secondarily, we're concerned about the accommodation zone situation where smaller entities can partner together. And yet the very first applicant was denied by planning, which seems to indicate that, maybe we're not all on the same train here. If you could just speak a little about those issues. Thank you, John.
Okay, yeah, great. Thanks, Susan. So the 200,000 for the equity plan was for an administration firm who can run the equity grant. And I think that needs to be looked at and questioned, because right now we're not exactly sure where we are with the equity grant plan. But I didn't know it was from Canada, so that's news to me. And you know, hopefully that could be administered locally. And then the 350,000 for code enforcement, 375, that is for Trent Taylor, who's already the code enforcement. And he's retired from the Ukiah Police Department, so he didn't want to be a county employee. He just wanted a separate contract. So it's kind of an ongoing contract with him. So he is local. He knows the cannabis industry and the issues, certainly, as well as anyone. And so that's for like a 2.5 years, I think. And then, was that it?
Susan, did you have a follow-up, or did he answer?
I do, very briefly. Thank you for that clarification, particularly in terms of code enforcement. The other issue that's of concern is the accommodation zones. That's for smaller entities partnering together. And it was just very dispiriting to see the very first applicant denied by planning. And just wondering if we can, I don't know, bring planning in a little bit more in a positive way. It just seems they're expert at saying no.
Yeah, that accommodation zone that got brought forth it was in Redwood Valley, and there was probably 30 or 40 no comments from the neighbors in that region. And so there was only one person in support of it, the applicant, it was really sad for me to see, because here's this applicant, he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's been growing for a long time. He wanted to continue. And then he says right next to door or across the street from him is a 120-acre vineyard in ag land. And so according to, if we go to phase 3, like what the supervisors voted on the other week, that they could put 12 acres of cannabis in that, and in that 120-acre lot. And here's this guy, he wanted to grow 2,500 square feet, and he was denied. So anyway, that's where we are with it. And there's another one coming forth in Calpella. So an accommodation zone is where people get together if they have like 10 lots or more, or 10 parcels, and the majority, or 60 or 80% of them say, yeah, that's all right to grow cannabis in this. That's what we've done historically. Then they continue on. Otherwise, it gets zoned out, where it's not proper zoning.
Okay. So again, if you want to ask a question or comment, you can use the chat and tell me that way, or probably even better is to use the reactions, which is the bottom of your screen towards the right. And in there, there's a icon for a hand, raising your hand. And then I'll see that and we'll call on you. So if anybody, somebody at the Grange would like to be speaking. So why don't the Grange, why don't you unmute and take it away?
Oh, thank you for recognizing me. My name is Ellen, and I guess this sort of applies to almost so many issues that come up, but it's kind of an overarching thing that I'm very concerned about. More and more, as the public's cut off from local government by COVID, the Board of Supervisors appears to be working for county staff and some behind-the-scenes special interest groups. In the last 6 months, major controversial ordinances and policy changes have been brought to the Board of Supervisors for action by staff and industry groups, without going to the public, without slowing the process, and without disclosing the source or purpose of the proposal, the Board of Supervisors then approved these changes. And some examples are this business of opening up all 700,000 acres of rangeland to expanded cannabis growing. Another is this whole issue regarding the discussions with the state over how to get the planning department to take care of the permitted growers so they can get their annual licenses. Another example is approving a new cell tower in Pine Mountain despite overwhelming neighborhood opposition, but staff clearly in collusion with the applicant wanted this project to go forward. I know, John, that you're frustrated by this powerful, almost secret government that's at work in the county. But I'm concerned that if we let this go unchecked, local democracy is going to die. So my question is, what specific actions are you planning to take or considering taking to change this situation and put your constituents back in the equation?
Well, I certainly agree with a lot of what you said, is that we do have a real problem with the board and this disconnect with the people. And so in the past, we would see the board chambers full for any kind of controversial issue. And now it's like we might get 6 comments. You know, I since I've been the chair this year, it's been really trying because I'm trying to get community involvement as much as possible. But there's this weird dynamic with these virtual Zoom meetings, is that what I see is board members feeling a disconnect from the people. And so you can do whatever you want because you're just in your room, you know, making this decision without the public right in your face on these issues. And so I think there's unfortunately probably been a reliance on staff, and we've seen, you know, in some issues, for example, okay, in February I brought forth some recommendations for streamlining the cannabis ordinance. Those were, 3 of them were unanimously approved, and then staff ended up sitting on them. Part of it was because of COVID and everyone was trying to deal with the COVID crisis that hit us in March. But then, since and kind of the idea at that time was not to deal with controversial issues. But it was approved unanimously by the board, those 3 recommendations. So then staff in the cannabis department sat on those, and we still haven't seen those come back to the board. And I've probably gone to them 10 times saying, when are you coming back with them? Where are they? Well, it's always one reason or another. And it's very frustrating for me. And so now it seems like we're dealing with more of the controversial issues, but I don't think there's that connection between the supervisors and the people. Trying to do these town halls is to get more of a sense of what's out there and more communication. So I feel that frustration.
Ellen, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I recognize and appreciate your frustration, John, and I also appreciate your doing this, that you were so enthusiastic to do this virtual town hall with actual Zoom access, which isn't necessarily available for Board of Supervisors meetings. But I guess I hope that maybe with the new Board of Supervisors, one of the first priorities could be to reintroduce this idea, John, that you tried to introduce to the old board, of not taking up controversial issues that were not emergencies. And a second thing would be to make it board policy that if there's an issue coming to the supervisors for the first time, or that hasn't been before the Board of Supervisors for a couple of months, that the board not take action but they table it until the board can have more public discussions about it, so that things don't move so quickly when the public has such a difficult time interacting. And I guess the third thing is to work really hard to try and make public interaction via Zoom that the county provides for people, to make it more possible for the public to get in your face, as you say. So those are my thoughts, and I'm hoping that we can all put our heads together and maybe come up with even some better ways to open it up.
Right. And I also think that we need to do a better job in the county for accountability of what the staff's doing. And I think a lot of staff is doing a great job. And I think that the supervisors need to hold themselves accountable and the staff. So when we approve something, that needs to be, carried forth. So there we are with it. And I think that I'll be working. I've had discussions about this accountability. How do we create greater accountability at the county level? And I'm working on it.
That's good. I think it's going to change somewhat with the two new supervisors. So I appreciate you keeping working on that. And who else would like? Okay, Henry, why don't you unmute yourself and you can ask away.
I think it's interesting that we have so many challenging issues, the fires, COVID, and all. And I want to talk about cannabis. And I'm an old hippie. I'm not opposed to cannabis. And I was actually, happy that cannabis is becoming a mainstream legalized product. And at the same time, I think that, well, personally, I am dismayed at the impacts that the explosion of cannabis grows in this Willits community that I observe is having on us. And part of it, and I made a little list here, my road, String Creek Road, is traveled during the dry season by half a dozen, I don't know. It's hard to keep track. Water trucks running from the Willits well to String Creek Road. That's what I count. And if you go down to the well by the ball field, you will see water trucks hovering like bees at a bird bath. They are waiting to fill up with water. Now, the Willits Aquifer is I'm assuming it's a pretty fixed sized aquifer. Where's that water coming from and how much more is left? What's the quality of the water? My understanding is that the quality of the water might not be, certainly not, they're not putting it on the ball fields because of the possible high levels of arsenic. The impacts to the sides of the roads in our county and I'm going to assume something here, that the increase of people from out of the area, not, new residents. I used to be a new resident, I get it, but I didn't allow my junk to fly out of my pickup truck along the roadways on the way to the landfill. The light pollution from greenhouses is a real issue for neighbors that have grows moving in next to them, and these things are lit up all night. And, I can stop there.
John.
Yeah, I think you're right, Henry, is that, the explosion of cannabis and hauling water, the light pollution, the hoop house proliferation on the hillsides, generator noise, they're all nuisances that we're seeing all the time. And I think one of the problems is that we have this complaint-driven code enforcement where someone has to call on their neighbor to get any action from the county. And that, in my 2 years almost of being supervisor, I've gotten so many complaints from people who say, this is what's happening in my neighborhood and I'm afraid to call myself. Can you do it? And it shouldn't be my role. It shouldn't be a person fearing to just make something right. And so I think we need to be looking, the board needs to look at a different model, because I don't think this model works really well. And at some point, the hauling water, that needs to, we're looking at how to stop it, because you can't get your state annual license by hauling water. You're supposed to have water on your property. And so how do these people get to their annual license when they're still hauling water? The light pollution, all that kind of stuff. Those are issues that we're all experiencing in this county.
Henry, follow up.
And just real quickly, it's a real boon for the water truck drivers. And I don't know how the city of Willits charges for the water, but there's a cash flow that accrues to the city, which at these times, with everything kind of shutting down, the city of Willits likes cash flow. And it's a problem that has to be dealt with. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Rosie, let me put back on, Rosie has been putting a few things into the chat, but I'm not sure everyone can get that. Rosie, can you unmute yourself and even if we don't have a picture?
Hello,
Yeah.
this is Rosie.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Rosie.
We often have a long delay, so I started typing so you guys didn't have to deal with the delay and echo we usually have. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, thank you. Mostly I want to agree with what has been being said. John, thank you of range and timberland for cannabis cultivation. That is short-sighted and insane. We don't have the water for it. I have been an ally of Sister Cannabis since 1981 here in Mendocino County. I love the herb, but it is ruining our light bulb by light bulb, water truck by water truck, and it really needs to stop. These people will destroy Mendocino County. And the way they grow their herb, they might as well all go back to New Jersey and do it in a warehouse, because they are no longer connected to nature.
Okay, John, do you have any response?
Well, I agree that the 10% rule is the expansion of size. Also, the area will be detrimental, will be a disaster to our county. At the same time, I see people like Paul Hansberry, who's got a cottage industry, who's very responsible, and they grow in a very responsible, regenerative way. So we have both the
cottage industry being the key word.
Right.
Cottage, really cottage.
Yeah. So it's how do we promote the Paul and Susans of this world, of this county at least, and make it good, because that's the legacy of our county. that's where we come from. That's what kept this county afloat for many years.
Okay, thank you.
In small, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think you had your 2 minutes and a short follow-up. If you have another quick comment, but go ahead, Rosie.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm looking to see if any of the other approximately 24 people on this, I see Sherry raising her hand. So Sherry, you're on.
Okay, thank you, John, for being with us today. Really appreciate it. My question is about what you mentioned, what I perceive as dysfunction on the county level. And in particular, I'll pick two areas, one being the licensing of cannabis growers so it conforms to the state requirements, not just the county ones, but the state ones. And the other one being Measure B. And my question is, what's the role of the CEO in this? Because I don't see her involved. I don't see her involved. I can speak more specifically about Measure B because I've been involved in that. But, we have a Citizens Oversight Committee, but they're oversight and they don't set policy or they don't have a staff. And so I'm wondering, what's the interface between the CEO and these different aspects of the county that are so dysfunctional? What is her role in this as the CEO? That's my question.
Well, I think the CEO has been really up to her eyeballs in the COVID response, and then the fire. And I think the last almost 10 months or COVID 27 CEO. I think that her in the county there have been very minimal from what I can ad hoc committee. We have to inform her of some of the things going on to keep her up to speed, and it's really kind of taking away time from the life and death situation of COVID response. So in that way, I think it's been left up to planning and building, and so that's where we are with it. As far as Measure B, we do have this oversight committee of 11 people. They've been at it for 3 years, and it's very tough to get a concerted effort or direction provided by them. And just like with this example of the financial plan, is that Supervisor Williams and I, who were appointed to it just a couple months ago, I think, that we've been calling for this financial plan, and we just haven't gotten anything that's nearly sufficient. And we can't rely on the numbers. We went back to the Measure B committee saying, look, you guys need to give us some money or pay for a count on. And they didn't want to do that. So they sent it back to the project manager, and we got another financial plan that was updated that was still insufficient and inadequate for determining where we are with the finances and how to move forward. So in that way, I think part of the dysfunction in that regard is, with the oversight, with the project and the CEO and hoc committee. We're all trying to work together. There's, you know, we do have this crisis residential center going, and we do have the training center that we purchased in Redwood Valley. So we're looking at, we do have the mobile ops unit, which is a mobile outreach for mental health crisis situations. So we do have some place. We just need to make sure when we're going forward with a sound financial picture, doing for the mental health.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question, if
Just
I
one-
could.
John, hold on a second. No, you're getting sort of in and out reception, mostly on, but then some of the time it's dropping in. So we lose a word here or there. I'm not sure what you can do about it, but Sherry has a follow-up, and then we'll do the best we can.
So my follow-up is that in my own experience in prior positions that I've held, it involved, my position involved working with an oversight committee over spending bond money. And I worked for the administration. And the administration came to the oversight committee having done their work. This is the direction we'd like to go. This is why. And are you on board with this? Yes or no? And if no, why not? But I don't see that relationship existing in the county. It feels like the oversight committee is being asked to be an initiator. And I don't see their role as that.
Sherry, you have a great point there. And I think that's part of the problem. And that's why we have this ad hoc to be more directive towards the oversight committee. And so the ad hoc of Supervisor Williams and myself have been working with the CEO and the Dr. Miller, the head of the mental health department, and trying to come up with a plan. And ask for the financial plan. We were turned back by the oversight committee. But we either need to keep moving forward with that financial plan, or just plow forward without a financial plan, which for me doesn't make sense. So really the oversight committee's role is to review the audit, and they can make recommendations to the board. But the board doesn't have to rely on recommendations from the oversight committee. The board can move forward. And I think that's the direction we're moving in.
I saw that there was a Willits Grange request to speak, so you're next.
Thanks, Madge. I just wanted to say that John was cutting out so much that we couldn't really follow him, but then it improved a little bit. And Mike, our techno wizard here, thought it might be something on John's end, like maybe you were tapping your desk.
Okay. No, I wasn't tapping the desk.
Stop tapping your desk. Anyway, but that was it for that.
Let's see, Madge, Darren Brewster had his hand up.
Oh, okay. Yes, Darren.
Hi, a lot of you don't know me. I'm the undersheriff for the sheriff's office. So very nice to meet all of you. I just wanted to thank the sheriff, and I wanted to thank John for all his assistance that he provided during the cell towers and the communication system issues in Covelo. John really kept the sheriff involved and in the know, and really helped us make Covelo a safer place with coming up with plans and ideas on how to keep the people safe in that valley while they were having those issues. So I just really wanted to thank John. That's all I had to say.
Well, thank you, Under Sheriff Brewster. And certainly Sheriff Kendall deserves a lot of the praise for keeping this issue on the forefront. We've taken the issue of lack of cell service in the Covelo area to Senator McGuire, and he's brought it up to the top people at the state communications. And so we've been having this series of meetings to improve the cell service up there because they were getting 911 calls that were being dropped. They grew in 911, and here we have the largest fire in state's history. We've got some, homicides, we've got arson, we've got all these issues going on. And people couldn't even call 911. So the state's been looking at it. Sheriff Kendall's been a great partner on that. And the county's really dedicated people too. And so I think we've probably had a half a dozen meetings with Senator McGuire and US Cellular. And we're trying to get the short-term and the long-term fixes in place. And hopefully that the long-term fix will be done by May. The short term is in the works right now. And I see the message from Susan O'Brien saying cell service in Covelo is still bad. So hearing that too, we have a meeting, I think, next week. I don't know exactly, another meeting with Senator McGuire and US Cellular, but we have been putting the pressure on them.
I saw a hand up from Pat Sobrero. I don't know whether she was just commenting yay for the need in Covelo and Laytonville, but was her hand up, and then Grange after that. Pat Sobrero?
Excuse me, Madge. There's two hands up on the electronic hands, mine and Henry's. Are you seeing that?
I saw one from Pat.
Are you able to?
And then was that Paul speaking?
No, this is Charles, and I'm hitting the button that says raise hand.
Oh, it's not showing.
But
why don't you go
it's
ahead?
not showing.
There will be an opportunity for someone at the Grange who indicated they wanted to speak. So Charles, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, John.
Hey, Charles.
Just a quick question. I just wonder if you think the new board will be able to maybe undo some of the damage as far as the hemp ordinance and the 10% expansion, and that's it. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, I think that the 10% expansion does have a couple steps still. It has to go through the planning commission and it has to come back to the board. So there are a couple opportunities to undo that. As far as the hemp, I'm not sure. I think that the pilot program is set and that I don't think it's coming back to the board. But we'll see. So I hope that answers your question. And we'll see what these two new supervisors do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the hemp, the ship is sailed for the pilot program. But after the pilot program, you can do whatever you want, right?
Right after the pilot programs for 2 years, 5 hemp sites each year. And so one of the things is that the Covelo, the Round Valley Area MAC, which is a municipal advisory council, they sent a letter saying they didn't want hemp production in their area. And I think that the Laytonville MAC, the LAMAC, also had a meeting and they discussed it. They didn't take any formal action at that time, but I don't think there's a very much support in either Laytonville or Covelo for hemp. So hopefully what I think we're trying to do is if we can tell the ag commissioner, we don't want it in our area, then I would think that the ag commissioner would take that into consideration.
Okay,
So that begs another question, which is, do you think if on a community by community basis, the hemp program could be challenged? I mean, if no community wants it, what would happen then?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to have a talk with the ag commissioner.
Okay, well, I'll ask you that question again later, John.
Very good, Charles.
okay, and I have David
Okay,
Grange, and then Paul has been trying to raise his hand and it seems to keep going away, but so the Grange first and then Paul.
Hi, John. David Drell here at the Grange.
Hi, David.
This is a follow-up on hemp. First of all, who are the economic or who are the proponents that brought the hemp ordinance to staff or to the board? Who are they? Who are the economic players and who are the political players that brought the hemp ordinance forward? And and with regard to the hemp ordinance, there's a reference in the hemp ordinance to a purchasing agent. And the purchasing agent is responsible for choosing the hemp growers. Who is the purchasing agent? Why are they called a purchasing agent? And why is a purchasing agent in the hemp ordinance? So that's kind of a two-part question.
Okay. We've had a couple people come forward, mostly wine growers who have vineyards and they wanted to do some hemp because I guess the price for grapes has been down, and so they're thinking that maybe this hemp would be, a money maker for them. That was just a couple people, and it was when we were still having board meetings in the board chambers. Since then, we haven't heard anything. When we had the whole issue come up before the board for this hemp pilot program, no one came forward and said they wanted to do it. It was all the comments were against it, but the board still went ahead with it on a 3-2 vote, and that's where we are with it. As far as the purchasing agent situation, I don't know about that. I can check into it and find out. So I just don't know.
But, all right, so follow up. So 2 people have the ability to cause the board to write and pass an ordinance to allow hemp? Is that all it takes?
Well, with the state, okay, we had a moratorium for the last couple of years on hemp because we wanted to make sure that we were doing it right. I still don't think we're doing it right, but the moratorium was going to end in February. And with the federal laws now saying, hemp is a right to farm, right to agriculture commodity, then we needed to do something. And so we could have banned it all together, or we could go with this pilot program. So the board decided to go with this pilot program to see what the issues are, and before we let it loose or do whatever we need to do with it.
All right. More later.
Paul, I
Thanks,
believe
John.
Paul had a request in. Are you there? Yeah. Unmute. Okay.
Yeah, there I am, unmuted. Hi, John. Earlier you mentioned that you're going to be having a talk with Richard Parrott, and that the state doesn't like the county's ministerial program. It's my opinion that the state is a ministerial program too, but by definition. When taking a task about that, they say that the reason it's discretionary is because of the results of the CEQA, which is another catch-22 because ministerial programs are CEQA exempt. So that's probably why they would rather have a discretionary program so that the CEQA is required. If the county does move forward with a discretionary program, how far would that discretion go? Would they actually start using common sense so that not only the CEQA document would be site specific, but the business plan and the application would be site specific? So that things that would apply to that particular geographic area, the climate, the methods, would that be site specific as well and be deemed on a discretionary level by the county? We've spoken briefly about some of the nonsensical things that are going on tax-wise, and I'd love to hear more about that later on. But I'm just wondering, as they develop this discretionary program, is there going to be common sense used? Thank you.
We don't know at this point exactly which way we're going with it. And we're trying to see if we can make this ordinance work. And so people don't have to go through site-specific review for each and every site, and that they've spent years hearing that we were going to work it out with the state. And now they're hearing, well, hold on, we have some real problems. So my point of view is let's just keep trying everything we can to make it work. And that's what these meetings with CDFA are about. And if we get to the point where we can't, then if we have to go to some kind of discretionary or a hybrid program or whatever, that we have common sense. And we make it work for especially the legacy growers.
Follow up?
Just to follow up, how can we keep trying? We've been trying for years now at this. Results. And again, I get myself in trouble all the time because I live my life with common sense and logic, and a lot of the stuff doesn't make sense, or it's illogical what some of these things that we've had to do are. And I don't see much progress. So I'm wondering who's steering it, and why is it having? Is there too much of a problem getting consensus on what needs to be done? Is that what the stumbling block is?
Well, I think the stumbling block is that the state wants us to do more than we realize that we could do. And then the other part is if the state were to do what is written in the regulations, they can't do it. And so they don't want to do what they're actually supposed to be doing, or one of the options is, and we can't do what the other option is. So it's how to find some path forward. And it's very frustrating.
It is frustrating because a ministerial program is CEQA exempt. So then, because it's ministerial on the Mendocino County by their ordinance, then it goes into their lap and they need to do it if they want to see it, because you don't have to because it's ministerial.
Yeah.
It's categorically exempt, and so is existing. We had to prove that we were existing as well. So we're categorically exempt on two different levels, but still the state is twisting your arm, making you do something that they're supposed to be doing. So what's up with that?
Well, I think you're right on that, Paul. And I got to say, Paul is one of the great advocates for cottage cannabis growers, Paul and Susan both. So I think that this meeting we have this week with CDFA could be really a critical meeting, and we'll see where we go from there. But I think that we're all realizing that there's some, a roadblock, a choke in Spanish, right? Where we're not making any progress. And we both the county and the state realize that there's some real issues.
So, Susan, do you want to add something?
Yes, go ahead. You're unmuted.
Thanks, Madge. Thanks, John. So quickly, if the supervisors can go forward with a very, very ill-advised pilot program for hemp, because horticulturally, there's no way that this will not contaminate other farmers' crops. It's horticulturally impossible. So anyway, that being said, is it time for a very small pilot program for very small phase 1 cultivators, where we're looking at incentives for pesticide-free, for integrated pest management, for water-wise cultivation, and where we're tying the tax to the amount of product grown as reported to Track and Trace, rather than an arbitrary, 50-pound minimum. So when we're looking at some of the comments previously, that there's a disconnect between the administration and us, we're looking at situations where, particularly with COVID, we're seeing people file non-operational because of illness, and yet they are still being taxed. And in order to appeal that, the fee is greater than the actual tax. So, we're looking at sort of creating our own roadblocks. And I'm wondering, John, if it's time to look at a very small actual cottage cultivator phase 1 pilot program. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd certainly be willing to look at anything like that. We should have more discussions, Paul and Susan, because you guys, you're great at throwing out these ideas that, like Paul said, just are logical and they make sense. So I look forward to talking with you more about that.
Right.
Please communicate with me, whatever, those kind of ideas.
And we'll do it. Thanks for the invitation. Now we'll be more inclined to reach out. Thank you. We know you're a busy guy, and there's a lot of things that would be let's just say a higher priority with fires and COVID, etc. So we've been a little reluctant to reach out because we know how busy you are. But thank you for inviting us to come in and reach out and talk.
Sure.
Is there anybody else indicating that they would like to ask a question or make a comment? Because I actually have a follow-up. I was wondering, well, in the absence of public meetings, which is very frustrating, and with these supposedly for a while they're non-controversial things not being dealt with, and now they are clearly being dealt with, why wouldn't there be an advisory committee for cannabis, for example, and have some of our knowledgeable local people working with your ad hoc committee and with the staff to come up with common sense approaches? What seems to happen now is it's the staff and the board, and then you get this little limited time for the public to try to get in there to make a comment when it's already too late because the staff already made up their mind. And there just doesn't seem to be a dialogue with the people who are directly affected. So that's my question.
Well, that's a good idea too, is an advisory board. They had working groups that were working on the ordinance for previous years. And I think we've kind of gone away from that with the whole COVID. So maybe it's time to bring them back into the Zoom world. So I like that idea. I think it would be well received.
And it's kind of a follow up to what Ellen said quite a while ago about very frustrating to try to make public comments at the board meetings. I know as a Willits City Council person, when we have our meetings, we have it sort of like this, where everybody who wants to can sign into the Zoom or the GoToMeeting or whatever the format is. But you can be there and then you get called on. The one time I was trying to comment to the board, it was arcane. It was like, it was really not straightforward. It was like you had to try to do it the day before, and then you didn't know what time you were going to be. It was very inadequate. If we're going to be stuck with virtual meetings for a long time, there's got to be a better system for it.
Right. And I think that as the chair this year, I think probably every week, other week, we, in our agenda setting meetings, we talk about what we can do to improve it. And with the staff we have and the technology, it's an ongoing process that certainly isn't there yet to where we would need it to really have robust democratic discussion.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is our chance. Oh, Rosemary, you have your hand up. Why don't you unmute yourself and make your comment?
First, I'll say my name is Jane McCabe, and I hosted a meeting using Rosemary's Zoom, and somehow now my name has been changed to Rosemary Landry. Who knows? I don't understand the world of Zoom, but I do understand John Haschak and what a good human he is, and I'm so grateful that he's in our corner, not just our corner of the world, but as our supervisor. And I wanted to say that I heard a proposal by a couple that have talking about cottage industry for cannabis. And I wanted you to know that somebody that really isn't a cannabis user, but started using it because I have rheumatoid arthritis on my joints. So using tinctures and other forms to help me with the arthritis pain. I would really like to see our cottage industries honored and have a place at the table for making input. They've been growing excellent products here in this county for years and years. And I think it's a real shame that they've been cut out to the outside and not included in the process. They've also really helped keep this county afloat. And God knows we need the money. I know this too because Madge is a friend of mine, and she explains to me how seriously our county and our city is being affected, not just by the lack of funding coming through cannabis, but also from our stores because people are buying from Amazon. For goodness sakes, quit it. Buy it home. I just want to say that I second having an organization that has our local cottage industries being of support for forwarding good, solid practices that will save our environment and produce a healthy product, not something that is grown with a bunch of additives and so on. Also, I want to say on a second point that I can't imagine a measure like Measure B that is so vitally important to this county because I have a son who has a serious mental illness, who was unable to get to be hospitalized in this very county, even though his psychiatrist specifically wrote a letter asking him to be hospitalized. Wasn't going to happen because our ladder is so high in this county because we have no local resources. When in the hell is something going to actually get done? When is it going to happen? I mean, do people have to die on the streets? I don't understand why we can't move something forward. We need to have specific people that are writing this legislation, not some advisory group who, though they are deeply in their heart's in the right place, just like mine is. They don't have the skills to do this. We need someone from our county doing this. And I heard that put forward by Sherry, and I'd like to put a definite second and a third and a fourth, if I could, for that.
Good time. Good, John.
Yeah. All right. I totally agree with you, Jane, about the cottage. You know, I just, I think that we do have some strong groups around here supporting the cottage industry. We have, you know, the Covelo Cannabis Alliance group is just spent an hour on the phone yesterday with their president or chair talking about the issues. We Paul and Susan, who are great advocates for the cottage industry. We have the Mendocino Cannabis Alliance. I think they're good advocates too for the industry. So we are doing that. As far as Measure B, that I totally agree with what you're saying, and that we need to start being more proactive. And I see that what we've been waiting for right now, well, at Tuesday's board meeting, we are going to consider this over $3 million for the construction part of this crisis treatment center in Ukiah. And then by the 19th, which is this week, we should get responses to the request for proposal or request for qualification for the PUF unit. And so that's a big, we need to see what the industry out there who kind of, you know, PUF units, what they think. And if they can do it without, ideally, if the county constructed something, they could run it without subsidies. So that's what we need to see if there's actually interest and if they'll be coming forth. At the same time, the two that I think Supervisor Williams and I put forth are this community awareness and education program, and also the app program. So those are two programs that cost together $610,000 a year, but those are needed regardless of whether we have a PUF or not, because people need services. Like your son, if you get sent out of county, even when you come back, you need those services and have this awareness in every care. So that from the mental health, they're saying we need those whether PUF or not. So I think that we need to move forward. And if you don't have services, a PUF, you know, if we have a PUF that goes into a PUF, they can stay there for 7 days and then they're out on the street again.
Mm.
We don't have the services that wrap around, then what happens? It's just a continual reset, and it's a filled system. So,
Yeah.
So my feeling is, let's go forward, let's do that, and start getting some of these services out there in the community.
So John, your time is up. And Jane, did you have a follow-up?
I do. The follow-up is I want John to give me the link for the supervisors meeting so that I can be attending at that meeting, so that I can make myself heard as somebody that is using this system or that has tried desperately to use the system and had failures. I think sometimes when you actually have a public face on it, it means more to people.
Okay.
I think your husband knows how to get there.
Okay, I'll
I
ask him.
Yeah, and it's at mendocinocounty.org and the Board of Supervisors agendas.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
That's how you sign.
all right. This is Madge again, and I just wanted to see if there's anybody who hasn't had a chance to say their piece or ask their question. I see Marilyn has a thumbs up. That's not quite the same as a hand. Did you want to say something, Marilyn?
Yes, I don't have a hands up signal on my machine, my thing. I only have the thumbs up available, so I don't know why. But I wanted to clarify, if we disagree with the expansion into the rangeland, I've heard that we should write to the planning and building. I've heard we should write to the board of supervisors. I just want to clarify exactly who should we be directing the comments to, because who actually has the power to do something about this? I mean, writing to planning and building, does that have any impact, or should we just be CCing them? Or I just wanted to get that clarified, exactly what's the most effective way to communicate our opinions to the board of supervisors, or how to impact this rangeland thing that we don't agree with.
Great. I think the two places you need to contact are the board of supervisors, because it will ultimately come back to the board, and the planning commission. So the planning commission will get it if you send it to the planning and building services. That's who you want to direct it to. Board of supervisors, planning.
Okay, so there's a difference between building and planning commission. They're two separate agencies or organizations.
Well, the planning and building services department runs the planning commission meetings, but the planning commissioners are appointed by the board of supervisors. So District 3 has one, Allison Purnell from Laytonville. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Good.
Okay, and Paula, you have your hand up. Why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself? You're still muted.
Muted.
Ah, there.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to follow up, John, and Madge, with that question I wrote to the Board of Supervisors and to the Planning Commission. I didn't write to the Building and Planning Departments. I have no idea if my email was received. I also wrote to the Sheriff Kendall on the same issue of the expansion of, cannabis farming into rangeland, which I think is a horrific idea at this time because of the plethora of danger and violence and unapproved illegal grows that are now, just a patchwork all over our community. And so it gets, as an elder at 75, it gets scary to have guns and to have violence and kidnapping and dogs. And, this is Covelo. It's the sacred, lovely valley that we all move to raise our children and to be part of. So I really hope that there's some way that if the Board of Supervisors or the Planning Commission receives my email, is there a way that they can let me know that it's gotten there? Is there any procedure by which the planning commissioners or the Board of Supervisors can let the person, who can't be there in person, know that their letter's been received? Thank you. Thank you for the answer.
Yeah. Hey, Paula, it's great to see you. And, this is the beauty of this call and the Zoom, is that here's Paula from Covelo who can attend the meeting just like the rest of us. So it's really great.
Good.
I will check with the building to see what their process is in notifying people about that. And the board, I've seen your letter. And so I don't know if I responded to it.
No, I don't think I've ever had a response from anyone except Sheriff Kendall once. Yes, so
Okay.
that would be helpful. That would be helpful
Yeah,
because I wrote recently
But-
about the rangeland.
your letter. Yeah,
Yeah.
certainly. I should have responded. My bad on that.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry about not responding to you then.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you for letting me know.
And I will check with planning and building.
Thank you.
So I am not sure. I don't see anybody else who has not had a chance to speak. I see Ellen, did you want to say something? Yes. Ellen at the Grange.
Thank you, Madge. I would just like to clarify, maybe for myself and other people who may be confused. It is my understanding that the county does not easily make its Zoom account available to the public. Now, John, maybe you know, what does it take for the public to participate at a board meeting just like we're doing right now?
Mhm.
Is that available to people? And if so, how is it available? And I mean, I've not seen it. I've gone through this convoluted register in advance and wait for the email the next morning and find out what phone number to call and watch the meeting until finally your issue comes up, and then you rush to the phone and you make your call, but you can't watch the meeting at the same time because there's a big delay. And it's clear that the county right now has the technology to make a Zoom link available to the public, because they do that for other, not only does the city of Willits do it, but the county does it for other commissions and meetings. So, John, could you explain to us, am I just missing it, or is this something that we want to put at the highest priority? Because I'm finding this meeting here, my participation from the Grange and watching other people participate, it is great to see people and hear them in real time. It really makes a difference. I'm loving seeing everybody here and faces and names that some who I didn't know and some who I know, but it brings back a real sense of democracy. So that's my question.
I don't know the technical part of it, but I do know that when you call in, you can be, when you're accepted into the meeting, you can do like the Zoom we're doing right now. So, and I think that a lot of times people just call in and they don't do the face-to-face part. And I think that would help when people do call in, that they do participate in the Zoom aspect of it, because sometimes I've seen people get their faces on there, and when you can see a person's face, you know, it has more of an impact, right? That's how we are as humans, instead of just the voice. So part of making sure that you do get the video part going on your public comments. So I don't know, can't do it like this. I know that Marin started their Board of Supervisors meetings, started to do open Zooms, and then it was hacked. They had all sorts of problems with it, and so they had to cut it way back. And I think our county's been afraid of that. So, but I will check in on it again and see what we can do, if we can push this forward, because obviously the COVID's not going away in the immediate future.
Yeah.
And the more decisions we make that don't have good democratic process, the worse we are off as a county.
Yeah, thank you.
Could I say something? I'd like to respond. Hi, I just got on. I'm sorry. This is Tekla from Covelo. And hi, Paula. I just would like to say that I have participated in both in-person board meetings and I've sent letters to the online version. And I have to say, and this is not directed at John, because I know John listens to everything that everybody says, but I do feel that it's like dropping notes down a well to put comments to the board. They seem to completely, as a group, ignore what the public says, even if it's like massive amounts of people saying it, both in letter form and in person. And it just kind of makes me crazy because I feel like it's a lot of energy expended, and for what? It seems like where can we get some leverage if not by our input? And that's all I'm going to say about that. Sorry.
Well, I think you're right, Tekla, is that there have been a couple decisions lately where overwhelming voice against certain things, and the board went ahead and voted for them. Expansion in the rangeland, 10% rule, the hemp. So those were all very, almost unanimously, the people were against them. All the public comments were against. A majority of the board still went ahead and did it. So that's when people are frustrated with the democratic process.
Somebody put a comment that they had waited for something like 5 hours at a board meeting trying to get their public comment. And I mentioned earlier that I had a similar issue of trying to find out, trying to have a comment. And it wasn't straight ahead, like you could just join the meeting, be muted until it was your turn, like this meeting here. So I think that an improvement in the technology is required, and really soon, because it's turning people off to their ability to interact with their own government. I mean, it's not a closed club. The staff, yeah.
Yeah, I see Paula, the similar experience.
Yeah, so I'm going to do one last call. We keep getting really good comments, so I don't want to shut out anybody who has something they need to say at this point, but I wanted to have a moment to just ask you, we, the three of us who, with John, decided to do this town hall by Zoom, we would like to do it probably quarterly. I see some people nodding their heads. Good. Do you have suggestions besides John having slightly better access so that his voice doesn't break up? Any other suggestions for the format or how to do even better next time? Anybody have a comment? Ellen at the Grange.
I guess I would ask for some ideas from people on how to publicize more widely, perhaps. Maybe I'm not sure anybody from Laytonville called in, but we do have some Covelo people. So maybe there's some ideas there. Also, now I don't have internet access at home, so it was wonderful for me to be able to come to the Grange and have somebody have Mike Burgess and Erica Crozen set up this technology for me to be able to participate this way. And I think the social distancing worked fine, and I'm just putting the idea out to Laytonville and Covelo if maybe there is a venue in both of those communities that might bring in some people who also don't have the technology to participate this way from home. So those two things I'd love to hear people's feedback on.
Great. Any other comments?
I'll just say to Ellen's comment about people from Laytonville, Rosie said that she's from Spy Rock, and then we had Mike Carter on. I don't know if he's still on. So we have had Laytonville people.
Good.
I could make a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, this is Susan Bradley in Laytonville, and I want to say that this has been the best reception that I have had on any of the conference calls that we've had. It's been terrific. I took a lot of notes and we'll write them up for local people here. My computer was out, which is one of the reasons why not everyone was informed. I had a lot of trouble with communication, but the meeting is coming. It's very clear over my cell phone. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being there.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much to John for being really willing to, hear from the public and listen, not just, yeah. And Jane, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I'd like to say I'd like to say that if you notified all the local service clubs, that I think that would help, like Rotary, Seroptimus, Lions, etc. Because I really think that a lot of people in those organizations would want to participate. I'd also like to say that if you notified the local churches, I think that would help. I think that this was fabulous. I think I feel so much better having been here. Thank you all that participated in doing this. And thank you again, John. You're just a blessing to our community.
I guess I also think it should be some kind of guideline for the county board members to all do this in their district. If you're doing it by Zoom, people can come from wherever. But I think you're the only one who's been doing this somewhat regularly, even pre-COVID. So plant a bug in their ear.
And the idea that we had too is that maybe this could spread out to other supervisors and create a more democratic process in our county.
Okay. I have got this recorded, and the technology is a little challenging for me to how to get the recorded message from the cloud out to people, but Channel 3 is planning to run it, I believe, and maybe I can get a link for people to access it. And I see Susan there with Paul and Susan. Did you have another comment?
Right now you're on mute.
Hi, thank you, Madge. Thank you, John. In terms of getting the word out for subsequent meetings, particularly, if we're looking at Spy Rock or places where electronic communication is difficult, just that very old-fashioned, we could even just print out the announcement and put it on the front door of a Geiger's, of the post office, a bulletin board, things like that. And that's something that all of us can do. Just print it out from your computer or just handwrite it and let people know that way about an upcoming meeting. Very often those people don't have the luxury of, scanning their electronic every day. It may not be available to them, but they're certainly going into a Geiger's to get, supplies or whatever. Thanks.
And on the notices that we did have available, I don't know how far they got distributed, but there was a relatively short way to get the link, but there was also on the larger ones, a way to do it just by phone. So I see we have at least 2 people that phoned in. So people that don't have good computer internet can still do this. So anyway, we'll keep working on improving how to get the word out. That's great suggestions.
And Matt,
yeah.
Susan O'Brien had a question. She's from Covelo, and she was wondering about the garbage service up there. Certainly, it's been a big issue, and I've had quite a few conversations with Solid Waste of Willits, who provides the service up there, and our Department of Transportation, because they run the contract, and it's a multifaceted problem. just the increase in garbage up there has been like 60% over last year's, which was 50% over the previous years. It's just increased so much that they don't have the capacity to handle it all, and they can't get the drivers. So we're working on it. And Susan, I'll talk to you later about it too, about more of the details. So, and the Round Valley area MAC is involved in it. So we have that, I'm very thankful that we have that MAC. We have the working on these issues for our communities.
Good.
And I see Mike, can I give a shout out to Mike Carter from Laytonville? Mike is on the with me. He's vice chair of the Mendocino Council of Governments. He's the chair of the MAC. He ran the voting booth, the polls in Laytonville on November 3rd. He was there all day. So he's just a very great, spirited person. And we have several in the 3rd district, but Mike stands out.
Good. I noticed there's quite a few comments in the chat, and I couldn't really read them all as they came in, but at the very end of this meeting, I'm going to save the chat and I'll go through some of the comments. And if anyone has any community announcement, something upcoming that you want people to know about, you can either say so now out loud, or Sherry's saying she does, or you can also put it in the chat. And I don't know what we'll do with it, but anybody can save the chat, by the way. If you, let me just explain that. At the bottom of your screen, if you have the Zoom, there's the chat thing, and you click on that and you can read them now. But at the very bottom right edge, there are 3 little blue dots. And if you click those dots there, it gives you the option to save the chat. Okay, and Sherry.
Well, it's not really an announcement. Marilyn put a chat in that if the meetings were quarterly and on the county calendar, so people could plan ahead. That's one suggestion. But I'm also wondering if it can't be just a regular agenda item called update on town hall meetings. And for the Board of Supervisors, it might be a way to generate more awareness about needing town hall meetings in other districts. And we could, but just to have that ongoing. And for the Willits City Council meetings to have an ongoing, I'm not sure where in the agenda it would be, but an update on the town hall meeting, just regularly, as a way to continue the discussion.
Great. Marilyn, did you have your hand up to say something, or was that just a right on sort of thing?
No, that was a right on kind of thing.
All right. Well, we're getting very close to 5 o'clock, and if there's no more comments, I feel like we've had a wonderful time. Oh, I see the Willits Grange still wants to say something. Go ahead, Ellen.
This is Ellen again from the Grange. So Madge, maybe you can explain to me, is there a reason that you're not reading the chat comments? Are they not meant to be read, or tell me about those?
It's just, I have trouble chairing the meeting and keeping track of signals. And at the same time, when I have the chat up, I can't see people and I can't be listening. Oops, and there I have a problem.
Someone else, oh, there's too many. Someone else could be a reader, and read the chat. There's not that many not that many.
That's what I'm thinking, that maybe Madge needs an assistant there to deal with the chat.
That's a good, I think John was actually reading the chats because he caught a lot of things there.
I see. I don't want the people who wrote chats to be frustrated that they weren't acknowledged. So maybe we need a few more hands on deck to do the tech side.
That phone call was somebody who wanted to be at the meeting and didn't know that it was already over. So I told him to call back. We'll try to do a better as much as we can. It's really, COVID is very challenging.
Yeah.
Physically, psychologically, but we've got to learn to do the best we can with it.
And with Sherry's comment, I will make a comment at my supervisor report on Tuesday about this town hall and encourage other supervisors to do it. And I also put into the chat my email address and phone number, but it's askjackj@county.org or 707-972-4214. Just please get in touch if there's something happened that I didn't see going on in the chat. I didn't see them all. So if you have a further question and you want to follow up with me, please do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and as I said, anybody.
Actually, this is.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
I was nervous about this. I was nervous about my dogs barking. I was nervous about the connectivity, which we still had problems. But the dogs they're fine today. No dog barking parties between my dogs and someone else's. So that's good. And it's just.
Did you feed them some local product to get them to settle down? Okay.
For a walk today. So
I'm not
going
to close the meeting for another few minutes so that you have a chance to save the chat or read it. But if you want to go forth and do whatever else you wanted to do today, you're free to leave the meeting now. We're closing it. But I'll just leave it open so that people can read the chats if they want. Thank you all for being here. Good comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I had
everybody.
I had one
Thank
other
you.
idea that just came to mind about getting the word out
Tekla?
with these. I'm wondering if there's money available to put up some kind of like a screen. Not sure what it's called, but a screen that would have that different stores might allow the county or city to install in their store. So like the thousands of people that come through Safeway every week that go through those checkout lines, if there was some screen like near the ice machine that said town hall meeting, blah, 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 or some other important town hall notice, city council meeting, here's the Zoom link, kind of a way to, it's just a communication tool. So I'm just putting that out there. I think we could talk about that further.
Ellen Drell did put up notices here in Willits at several of the stores, and they gave permission to have a little box with, and we had little handouts because when you do it on a screen, it's really hard for someone to jot down the link. It's not as straightforward as a phone number or a place to go at a particular time on a particular day. You have to have the link. So a lot of people are getting those things electronically.
Right.
And we used the Mendo bulletin board and the well lists, but we can do better. We'll keep doing.
Yeah.
All right. So
We can do better,
everyone.
but this
Take
was
care.
great. This was great. I want to thank you, Madge and Sherry and John. This was fabulous. Yay. Yay.
Yeah.